It's a weird way to start your day, being accosted by Sean Patrick Flanery.
Yes, it is.
to be minding your own business and looking at some Lego figures, and then suddenly
out of nowhere,
tanned dude with a leather bracelet's like, "What's this? What's going on, man?" I'm like, "I don't know. Don't drop a toilet on me, please." Oh my God. It's half of the Boondock Saints.
Yes.
Boondocks Saint?
Yes.
How do you singular that plural?
Oh, I think you had it right.
Yeah, I hope I got it right. He's going to shoot me
No.
while hanging from a rope like Charlie Bronson. Well, he's one of the guests at Minnesota Fan Fest, which is a con that we are at currently as the Just Enough Trope podcast. I'm your host, Calaban, joined as always by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Mikan Hana.
Hopefully you can hear us here on our magical Zoom recorder. And we are here for the con. It's 2 days. It's August 19th and 20th in St. Paul. It's the first time this con's been here, and it's kind of exciting because this is the same company who did Phoenix Comic Con, or who does Phoenix Comic Con, which has been wildly successful.
Right.
And they are looking to branch out and do other stuff, and they thought the Twin Cities would be a great place to come. And I agree with them.
Yeah.
I think that, we've got a great con culture here. And, we kind of, they came back, but I feel like we told Blizzard that we didn't want any part of that shit.
Yeah.
Or at least the way that they had approached people here in the Twin Cities and decided to do the show. And so they're doing a different thing here. I think that Phoenix Comic-Con staff or Square Egg, whoever's behind it, has, as far as I understand, talking to some of the vendors and artists here, has dealt pretty squarely, or eggily, whichever one is the best thing, as far as that's concerned. And so that's good.
Yeah.
And it's been a calm day. I think the attendance has been lower than they expected.
Yeah, I think so,
I didn't see any projections or figures of what they expected, but it's a good setup. It's a fairly large area. And I wouldn't say, it's not a ghost town.
No, it's not a ghost town.
But it's not packed.
No.
So I would say it's comparable to there's a fall and a spring con that are not corporate cons.
Right.
That have been famously here for a long time. And I'd say maybe a little less than that, but I'd say it's close.
Yeah.
Looks kind of like it.
Yeah, I would say so.
We mentioned Sean Patrick Flanery before. He's going around just randomly accosting people and doing some social media videos. That's fun.
Yeah.
Eddie McClintock from Warehouse 13, amongst other things, is also one of the main guests here. Garrett Wang from Star Trek Voyager is here. Harry Kim. Ensign Harry Kim's here. And, of course, the ubiquitous Jason David Frank.
Yes.
Tommy the Green Ranger.
The Green Ranger.
He's got to be here.
Himself.
So he is here, yeah.
Huge line to see him.
There is.
Yeah.
Now, I am not discounting the popularity or even the congeniality of the Green Ranger. But he's at so many events.
I know.
You think you'd have seen him 6 times already this year.
I know.
Lucky number 7. Let's do this thing. But yeah, no, he had a really large line, and he was leading people on some kind of terrifying chants. I don't know what was going on. Maybe some putties showed up, so that's what was happening there. And there's also, of course, the usual fantastic coterie of creators and artists. Some familiar faces and people we know, and some new people too.
Yeah.
Well represented here is, of course, World Monster HQ, which is the studio that John Bivens, amongst others, has set up as kind of a local comic books cadre.
Yes.
Maybe we'll get, I don't want to promise anything, but I'm hoping to try and get a chance to talk to them, possibly this weekend or maybe in the future on the show, and find out more about that.
Sounds good.
I know John is an MCAD boy.
Yep.
Art College, Minnesota, Minneapolis?
Minneapolis.
College of Art and Design?
Yes.
But not acronyms or initialisms. And has been, lives in the area and has been very adamant about there's a lot of comic artists. There's more comic artists than you would think.
Yeah. From
the Twin Cities, and getting those people together and doing some amazing stuff with that. Peace bonding. Let's talk peace bonding.
Okay.
How do you... I'm looking at a Wolverine. He's got an awesome costume, and he's got an orange thing taped on his claws.
Oh my gosh.
So that somebody has looked at his claws and went, thumbs up.
You're okay.
These are not razor sharp. They're not adamantium.
Yeah.
They're safe.
Yeah.
Then you tie a thing to them.
Yes.
Can't we get something that will not destroy the verisimilitude of your costume. What if they had like a fake beer can, and maybe it says Minnesota Fan Fest on it. You can only get it from the people that peace bond things. And we could stick that in the hand of the claws.
There you go.
So a security guy sees that fake beer can, goes, "Oh, I get it. It's fine. It's not dangerous."
Same thing.
And it's all part of the Wolverine costume.
I like it.
I think I'm onto something here.
I think you are too.
What are you looking forward to seeing today?
I'm looking forward to seeing some artists work.
Yeah.
Maybe talk to some people about upcoming events that they're doing. Or
I'm really looking forward to watching the woman that's working this booth dressed as Wonder Woman do 152 squats as she kneels down to take pictures of little girls. Like, it's great, and the girls are like super excited. But like, if you have to wear the Brian Bolland full-soled high heel boot,
yes,
for that the isotoner or whatever it is type thing, rather than the regular heel, 2-inch heel boot.
Yes,
because it's going to be, your calves are going to feel that.
Yeah,
you're going to be a little sore by the end of the day. Well, I'm actually doing some of the panels and some of the programming here at the con, and we actually had one of our panels, or I did a panel already today called Last Jedi and the Future of Star Wars, and we talked about Star Trek.
Wars.
I love Star Trek. It's great. Star Wars. And we talked about The Last Jedi for a while, what we know, what we don't know, the things that we expect to see, and of course that went on to other things like Untitled Han Solo movie.
Right.
And Episode 9, and what people are looking for, and it's good audience interaction, and I really like the positivity.
That's good.
Even the people on the panel, because we're the quote-unquote experts, really just means that's code for we have opinions.
Right.
And we're going to talk about them. And although, I question some of the directions that the franchise has taken, or that I would like it to take, that it hasn't taken yet. But yet, I was so positive. We had people who were like, well, I feel that maybe we could do this, but get a room full of people who love Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a Star Wars love fest.
It's true.
And so that's what happened. And it was enjoyable. It was a lot of fun.
Good.
Later on today, I'm doing a panel about Thor Ragnarok, which I'm excited to talk about. I'm excited for the film. I don't know if we're going to fill an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe it should have been like Thor in the Marvel movies or something like that.
Sure.
Or maybe like a Taika Waititi career retrospective.
Sure.
We're werewolves, not swearwolves. Because it's like, I don't know what we're going to talk about for an hour. But we're going to try. And then speaking of not knowing what I'm going to talk about for an hour, later on today I've got a panel about the Inhumans, from comics to TV to movies.
Yeah.
What movies?
Yeah, no kidding.
They're not in any movies.
They're not going to be.
So I am hoping that I'll be the person that knows the least about the Inhumans. And I know a fair amount, but, we could talk. Maybe we could talk about this. Why aren't the Inhumans anybody's favorite characters?
That's a good
And we'll
question.
get there, and there'll be some guy dressed as Black Bolt, and there'll definitely be somebody who it's their favorite character.
Sure.
So I'm hoping they can school me. I'm there to talk, and I'm there to learn.
Yeah.
Less teaching, more learning. But we got to talk about Medusa's hair.
Oh my gosh.
That's going to come up. Or not, if they get the CGI budget. But the subject will come up, as the case may be. So that's kind of us, just letting you know where we're at where are we again? Minnesota Fan Fest. I can't be tired already.
No.
And perhaps we'll come back to you a little later in the day with a little more. But we'll be back later to give you more updates on those panels and what else we've seen at Minnesota Fan Fest.
Camelot, Camelot, in far off France I hear you call. Camelot.
All right, well, I thought we'd break into the middle here with our Craft Disservices segment, our last Craft Disservices segment for at least the foreseeable future. How do you feel?
It feels kind of weird.
It does feel weird.
And a little sad.
A little bit sad. Like the film that we watched.
Yeah.
For this segment. If you don't know by now, it's too late to know, but I'll tell you anyway. Craft Disservices is our segment where we watch a film that was poorly rated but well received. The films that critics rejected but that audiences embraced. And nothing really exemplifies that, in my opinion, as much as this film and the musical it was based on, Camelot.
Yes.
By Lerner and Loewe, of course, the musical was. It was a big hit in 1960, and it was made into a film 7 years later in 1967.
Yeah.
The film Camelot, directed by Joshua Logan, and the screenplay was by Lerner from his book for the musical. And this is one of those things where it's like, I don't know, would you call it like... I don't want to compare it to the Transformers because I wouldn't do that to anybody. But it was something that was extremely popular. But a lot of the critics, I mean, if we had a musical version or a theatrical version of this show, orchestra, the pits. It's the pits.
Yeah.
But orchestra is in like quotations or parentheses. All bad ideas, and we'll just workshop it later. It would be the same thing, because it was a thing that a lot of critics said, oh, it's too long, it's too schmaltzy, but audiences really loved it. And one of the things that really helped it is that it was in previews, and it was like 4.5 hours long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's what they do with, previews. I mean, you sort of, or like touring before you get to Broadway, you sort of work the show out. So they were still
sure
kind of figuring things out and cutting some things. They actually added some things back to the movie that were cut from the regular show. But it opened to sort of tepid box office and not very good reviews. And Lerner and Loewe were invited to be on the Ed Sullivan Show for something else. I can't remember now. But anyway, and so they brought... like the performers and stuff, and did like 4 numbers from the show on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Oh, wow.
And that did the trick. That was it. Like after that, it was the new Hamilton, like it was through the roof. Robert Goulet, in his first major starring Broadway role, of course, as Lancelot. This is where we get Robert Goulet from, because he was on the Sullivan Show and he was on the on Broadway, in the show. And
Sure.
so that's where Goulet comes from. And, yeah, I mean, it was all kind of off to the races. Then Richard Burton, of course, played Arthur on Broadway, and Julie Andrews played Guinevere.
Okay.
And when the time came to make the film, it was scheduling and other issues, and so they recast, and we got Richard Harris instead. Doing his best Richard Burton,
Yes.
in my opinion. If you squint, he almost makes it. And he was not a favorite of the producers. They did not really want him. He had to campaign really, really hard to get the role, and eventually did convince them. And then, of course, they went and got Vanessa Redgrave to play Guinevere.
Yeah.
And we're just barreling through it here. Franco Nero as Lancelot.
Yes.
Who has a lovely singing voice. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
Now...
C'est moi.
Right,
C'est moi.
right. Do you think that is his voice?
I would guess yes, but seems like a leading question, so...
You have gotten pretty good at this over the years. It is not his voice, actually, because he's not that good of a singer.
Oh no.
In fact, I'm not sure that he really sings at all.
Well, it's amazing that he got cast in this then.
Yeah. His voice was dubbed by Gene Merlino, who I tried to point you to some other stuff, but I think I can think of anything else. Nice voice.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a real big star. So what happens in Camelot?
In Camelot, Arthur is waiting for his new wife, which is Guinevere, to come, and he's kind of hiding in a tree. And then he comes across her, but doesn't know that it's her at first. I mean, she doesn't know that it's him. Excuse me. And then he has... They frolic a little bit, and they get married. He has an idea to have a Knights of the Round Table, and that was like a big idea of his. And so then a bunch of knights come from all over to be part of the Round Table, including Lancelot. And when Lancelot first arrives, Guinevere is not a fan of his, and issues a challenge to several warriors.
Yeah, in a song that was ultimately cut from the musical, but they put back in for the film.
Okay.
and you may take me to the fair song.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite numbers.
It's a great song.
And it's some of the best numbers that almost always get cut, like in film versions, are the numbers of like side characters, like the Thénardiers, in Les Mis, or the Countess in Sound of Music.
Right.
Like she's got a whole number in Sound of Music that we cast like a great singer, not to really act or be in any important scenes, but to like just On the Street Where You Live in My Fair Lady.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love the fact that got back in, and then you've got the three other guys. One of whom, Sir Dinadun or whatever, is kind of Anthony. What's his name? He's kind of familiar. I think I've seen him in some stuff, but maybe he's just got one of those '60s faces. I know that he specifically was in the running for James Bond.
Okay.
Yeah, in the late '60s or in the mid '60s, and of course didn't get the role, but he just kind of has that sort of
James
square-jawed,
look,
thick, bushy eyebrow, sort of dark complected look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me more.
So then he fights all these guys and he wins. And the last guy looks like is almost dead, but he like says a prayer and comes back to life somehow. And Guinevere is really touched by this and just kind of ends up falling for Lancelot.
Right.
And then Arthur kind of senses that they've fallen for each other, but he's deciding to ignore it. And since there's no proof of their infidelity, he's going to continue loving them both in their own ways.
Yeah.
And
that makes up the sort of finale of the first act.
Yeah.
Because we kind of see this, and then he's like, there's this whole sort of scene for him where he's like, I've got to be the king, and so I got to kill them, but I also have to be, a man, and I love them, but I've decided I'm going to do both.
Right.
And it's this noble thing, and Arthur's just too good of a person to be a king. Kind of like T'Challa, the Black Panther. It's got to be nerdy somehow. No, just that idea that like maybe you're not the best, or Jon Snow. How about that? You're too good of a person. You can't make these decisions. Get rid of him. Banish him or kill him. Lancelot. Job's done. Do whatever you want to Guinevere. France is going to be mad at you, but you're England. You can handle that. And instead, he decides, I just want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to get what they want. I won't get what I want fully, but I'm willing to take that on. And it ends up breeding this sort of cancer on the presidency. And that's the first of our mentions of the parallels to presidents. Not Kennedy in this case, but in this case Nixon. So maybe in the future.
Right.
But yeah, he makes this decision, and it causes a problem because his loyal knights know what's going on, because apparently Lancelot and Guinevere are really bad at hiding this.
Yeah. Maybe
they shouldn't like sing at the top of their lungs about when they would leave each other and what season it would be. The song that starts the second act. But so each one of them in turn, we only see one, but you get the idea that like all of his knights have been challenging Lancelot.
Yes.
Like, you have been betraying the king, so you deserve to die, and they can't beat him because he's the best knight ever.
Right.
And so they have the choice to renounce what they said and be banished, or keep it up and be put to death. Right. And Arthur, commutes their sentence, and of course they have to be banished. So it has the effect of subverting Arthur's sort of original thing, which was he wants might to fight for right. He wants to apply force for good, and yet he's sort of abusing that because he's helping to cover up this lie. He's doing the merciful thing, but they're all running off with this idea about Camelot, like, what the hell? Like, right. Things are messed up there. And so he's basically building the enemy's army for them by sending all of his knights away.
That's true.
And his enemy's army is going to be led by
Mordred.
Right.
And Mordred's kind of sneaky and underhanded.
You think?
Yeah. There should be like a sneaky evil like soundtrack underneath him the entire time.
Yeah. There's that. Well, there should, and he has a song, "Seven Deadly Virtues" or something. He has a song in the musical that's cut in the film. Morgan Le Fay's in it in the musical too, but they cut her out of this too. I think just to streamline it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea and tradition is that Mordred is Arthur's illegitimate son, which I always liked in the legends because it makes Arthur not perfect, but he's like this perfect guy, but they have to introduce this character that he's had this illegitimate son due to a dalliance or whatever, and they brush through that real fast in this. So much so that it's like, and this character's here in court. Oh boy, what a bad guy.
Yeah.
I don't like that guy. And so he sort of spearheads the effort to uncover the Guinevere Lancelot tryst. Yeah, there's also a scene in the musical where Morgan Le Fay is involved, and when Arthur goes out to the woods to set up Guinevere and Lancelot,
Yes.
there's a whole scene where she like casts a spell to make him tired so he'll stay in the woods. Because even in the film, he kind of is out there and then he's like, this is stupid. I can't do this. And
Right.
I'm going to run back and try to warn them. What a beta cuck. No, I don't know. But no, he's really, he loves them more than he loves, his the life that he's got, his relationship, with Guinevere. And you don't see that very often. In a modern film, you would,
No, you don't.
You cheated on me. Oh, I'll push you off a cliff or something like that, But he's just
Right.
so, I guess being turned into a raccoon when you're a kid by a wizard really changes it. It was really changed. It was changed by that. The actual theatrical cut of the film is shorter than the extended cut, which is what we watched on Blu-ray.
Okay.
And a lot of the parts, if you were ever bored, that's
Yes.
something they put back in. So that scene where it's like, "Where are you now, Arthur? I'm a hawk. I'm flying over a thing. Oh, I can see all the things.
Yes.
Oh, is this like how you explained to Guinevere in the first act and we don't need to see this scene? That's right. That's what I'm doing." All that stuff they cut out of the original VHS release, or even when they re-released it as they would do back to theaters,
Sure.
before we had a million movies and it became very rare for a film to come back into theaters.
Right.
So anyway, where are we? They've been caught because Mordred has organized this thing.
Yes.
Lancelot runs away. They've got Guinevere. They sentence her to
She
death.
gets put on trial.
Naturally, yes.
Yeah. They sentence her to death, and Arthur is waiting for a rescue from Lancelot.
And again, I love that setup because it's, we should be the evil king put somebody or sentences somebody to death. The sheriff
Right.
of Nottingham is going to hang the little John and his boy or whatever. And
Right.
we want Robin Hood to get there, but like Arthur's us. Like he's like, I want them to get there too. Where's Robin Hood?
Yeah, exactly.
Go get in here. Yeah, and Lancelot shows up.
And he saves Guinevere,
Yeah.
but they don't necessarily end up happily ever after like you would think.
Right.
She ends up staying with the nuns in a nunnery.
Right. Bad news.
Yeah.
Well, they have to go to war
Yeah.
because when Lancelot saves Guinevere, it kills a lot of the knights.
Yeah.
So this has to be answered, with blood. So
Of course.
So Arthur goes to France to besiege Lancelot's castle. It's different than what happens in the Arthurian legends, really, but it's the same setup. And we can assume that the knights and I guess Mordred, maybe. Would Lancelot put up with Mordred?
I don't know.
I guess we don't really find out what happens to him, but it doesn't matter. And so they're going to have this fight. And so we come back to the framing device of, as the film opens, it's the night before the battle, and Arthur is reflecting back on his life and how we got here.
Yes.
And he meets a young boy named Tom of Warwick.
Yes. And Tom is very naive and innocent and pure. And Arthur tells him that he should run behind the line and live. So he doesn't want him to fight.
Right. Run, boy!
Yeah.
Run! Yeah.
Exactly. Which is kind of interesting, too, because it's like you'd think you would need everybody that you could. So even like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, but at that point, it's not even that he he knows that they're going to lose.
Yeah.
Like at this point, he's this idealistic guy. He's only wanted to build this place. Don't let it be forgot that once there stood a spot, like Camelot, and he's ready to die. I think Lancelot's basically, because Lancelot, when he meets with him secretly in the forest, he's like, can we put me to death. And he's like, I don't think it's going to work. We got to do this.
They want bloodshed.
It might. Try it. No, we're all going to go to our deaths nobly. But he wants one person to survive. And this kid, seems to get it, or at least Arthur sees in this kid that, tell the tale, tell our tale, go home and be the best knight you can be. And hopefully people listen to you.
Right.
Just a little kid. White for white. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. I don't think it deserves the 50% that it got.
Yeah, it's right at 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Man, there's a lot of. I mean, like any huge production, there's a lot of stories that came out of the production, and like I said, Richard Harris fought vociferously to be considered, and I don't know the exact reason, but I think Burton was just. This is like the middle 60s when this thing is starting to sort of ramp up. So I think he was like, I want to do something else. I'm Richard Burton. This is like the middle 60s. I'm hot right now.
Right.
But Richard Harris was like, as soon as Vanessa Redgrave was cast, he sent a note to the Jack Warner, the producer of Warner Brothers, and he said, like, he had listed their heights. He's like, Vanessa Redgrave's 5'11", Richard Burton is 5'10", Richard Harris 6'2". And they're like, oh, fine, jeez, yeah, get him in there.
Wow, I'm taller than her.
Yeah, right. And there was a lot of like we said before, that there was a lot of Lerner and Loewe. This is one of their last major collaborations.
Sure.
I think they adapted Gigi they worked on the film adaptation of Gigi from their musical.
I love Gigi.
Yeah, me too. Too late to do it. Maybe we'll do it someday. But this is really tough. One of them had a heart attack.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it was just really stressful, and so they were working on shortening the show. And I think they came up with the whole "Take Me to the Fair" song very like the night before they went up for like their first preview or something.
Okay.
They didn't just write it, but it was like whether it was going to be in or not before they opened. Which there's this famous like quote from Julie Andrews where they gave it to her like the night of the show, and she's like, "Well, next time try to get it to me the night before the show." So yeah, but I mean, if anybody could handle that, it would be her.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Why do you think that people didn't like this, or at least critics? Because it went crazy. I mean, at the time, the movie was big. People watched it. It led to. I mean, the show still goes today.
Right.
Actually, Richard Harris bought the rights to the show.
Really?
Yeah. After the film, and then put himself in it and toured it for years and made a lot. Dumbledore making it rain. Like he's doing fine. Yeah.
I think it's a little long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. But other than that, there's nothing really glaring about the production or, as to why it would be so unfavorably rated. Otherwise, I mean, I guess the only other thing is maybe the cheese factor, because it is a musical.
Yeah,
so
it's really cheesy,
cheesy,
but that's its charm, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of other musicals are cheesy too.
Yeah.
So
the one, if I had to, damn it with fainter praise, it's not very well shot.
Okay.
I don't think the director does a very good job. This is the 60s, so there's no steady cam. There is actually a couple scenes in the movie with camera moves, which is like kind of a bold choice, I think. Like the sets look great, the costumes, everything, all that's great, and I think it was nominated and maybe won an Academy Award. I was having too much fun to do too much research on this film, but I mean, it was definitely lauded and won Oscars, and all that's fine. But there are just static sort of scenes that kind of go on for a long time.
Yeah,
and I mean, like real frenetic sort of cutting and staging wasn't really the thing back then. But this is a musical with energy. Nothing is done as well, in my opinion, as the C'est Moi scene, which is great.
Yeah, that is great.
Which does have a few long takes in it, but it sort of shows he's up on a parapet and he's addressing the audience. He's breaking the fourth wall the entire time.
Yeah.
And then as it goes, it makes these fast cuts that are him traveling across the channel, and suddenly he's riding a horse. And the director definitely sat down and thought all that through. And then they're combing a horse, and Guinevere is saying something, and Arthur is out of focus. He is just not in focus, and nobody bothered to change it or to pull it different or do another take. And there's just a couple spots like that. I think a lot of the numbers work well, and a lot of the interstitial stuff kind of falls flat.
Sure.
Like there's the Take Me to the Fair. I think that's a great sequence too. That dog has got to pull back. He's drinking too much. A lot of dogs in this.
There are a lot of dogs in this.
And there's fun stuff like, Arthur's in a bath. It's on wheels. But it's a bit that's kind of just, the bath comes straight at the screen, so you don't really even see it in profile. You don't see like this fun bath on wheels.
Right.
It was probably something that was in the stage show.
Probably.
That just wasn't. Yeah. So, I mean, I can totally see if you gave this to, I don't know, not Baz Luhrmann, but I mean, if you gave it to like Julie Taymor or something like that.
Sure.
I think she could kill it. And so it survives on the strength of, the songs are some of my favorite songs. But then again, I'm also My Fair Lady guy.
Yeah.
And I like Gigi too. So these are my guys.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, 50% though.
It's pretty low.
I think one of the things that we talked about before we were deciding on picking this is that, in my opinion, this is like maybe the dividing line. Maybe we can find another dividing line. But this is a dividing line. This is a good last movie for our last Craft Disservices segment, because for me, this represents the threshold where you can't really do Craft Disservices anymore without thinking about it.
Right.
Because it came out, it did well. Some critics liked it, some people didn't. It's same thing with the musical, and it was old enough and maybe of its time enough that it fell into this crack where, this Blu-ray came out a couple years ago, but it's not like the guy that, Owen Gleiberman or whatever for EW said, I got to make sure I review that
right
as a nostalgia piece, and then we'll bump that review up.
Right.
The way, say, Blade Runner, has 98% because it's got all these after-the-fact reviews.
It's been
This
bumped
doesn't
several
have any
times.
after-the-fact reviews.
No.
So 50% is what it got when it came out in 1967, and that number has never been altered, or raised or lowered since.
Yeah.
And it's probably the last film we can really look at that was like that, because the 60s, Hollywood musical has not returned and is not necessarily looked on as being super influential, like the way you can go back to every movie from the all the Robert Altman movies and whatever the 70s American new wave thing was. Those have all been picked over and over again, to the point where their ratings and their perceptions have definitely changed. But yeah, this is kind of frozen in time.
And I think that's a good way of talking about it too, because the songs and everything, it's a classic, but it is very much frozen in winter in time.
But only for a certain amount of time, and then
the
snow has to melt.
Because it's Camelot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a funny story about how Franco Nero and Vanessa Redgrave actually became an actual item couple.
Okay.
On the set. And fell in love. They didn't. They kind of broke up, and I think they had a child together too.
Okay.
And then broke up, and then had relationships and like marriages with other people. And they got back together when they were older. Like they got married in like the late 2000s or something like that.
That's so crazy.
It's sort of weird. And then they actually ended up doing like a movie or a show, I think. They do it called Letters to Juliet, about a couple that does that, about how they
really
sort of send each other letters and they kind of come back together when they met each other when they were young.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a real Stephanie Powers, Robert Wagner love letters kind of thing.
It is.
That's for maybe my parents. I'm not sure who's going to understand
cut.
that. But yeah, so that's a kind of funny story. Another reason Julie Andrews didn't want to do it is that she didn't like Richard Harris. They worked together in Hawaii, and she was not a big fan of his.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I just find really funny. Actually, ironically, they didn't want to put Julie Andrews in My Fair Lady. They went with Audrey Hepburn instead because they thought that Julie wasn't a big enough star. Then we get to making Camelot, and the Warners couldn't get Julie Andrews. She could say no to them because she was now a big enough star.
Yeah. That's ironic.
Be careful who you are mean to on the way up.
Yeah.
Because they're going to come after you on the way down.
That's right.
What do you think of old Richard Harris, huh? One of the Hellraisers?
I think...
Him and Burton and Peter O'Toole and help me out. Oliver Reed. Those four guys were ripping it up.
I think he did a good job. I think he was a good Arthur. And he was convincing, and you rooted for him, even though, you didn't want Lancelot and Guinevere to have this fling. And
but you find yourself sympathizing with them because I think that, and it's part of it's the writing, but I think it really is Richard Harris in that you feel for this guy, like you want him to win, but at the same time you can see how somebody who likes the lusty month of May, like Guinevere, would just not. It's kind of like I love you, but I'm not in love with you, kind of thing.
Yeah,
you can totally see that.
Yeah, about
how they're sort of mismatched, and trying to keep it together is only going to make them unhappy,
right?
And lead to a really weird coda in a song where they're having fun about what the simple folk are doing, and then they're like,
yeah, that was strange.
Our marriage just died emotionally in the middle of this fun song. Like it does. There's some more funny stories.
Yeah.
Let me get right to one. No, I want to tell my Peter O'Toole nun story, but it doesn't really fit because that's Richard Burton. I have the cast album, actually.
Yeah?
I have on vinyl. And I love Richard Burton. He's great. He's great in anything, but I feel like Richard Harris is better for this role.
Okay.
You think of Richard Burton, it's like Richard Burton. That guy's a real toughie, you know what I mean? Like he's like a sensitive, like, ooh, I'm King Arthur,
romantic.
Everybody. Hey, right.
Arthur really is a romantic too. Like he wants to see the best in everybody, and he that's why he does what he does with Lancelot and Guinevere, and he changes the law so they can't have duels anymore, and that arguments need to be settled in court.
Right, which pisses off King Pellinor to no end.
Yes.
Yeah. They actually, when they thought they had a shot at Burton, and this is an alternate universe, I want to see this. I need a portal gun to get there.
Okay.
But they thought, okay, Burton, you want the role? Fine. We'll bring Taylor in for Guinevere, and we'll get your buddy Peter O'Toole to play Lancelot.
Oh, gosh.
Now, except for the fact that in his prime, in Lawrence of Arabia prime, Peter O'Toole's like 98 pounds soaking wet. He's not a Lancelot.
No.
But, oh boy, that'd be a real good show. I don't know if that show would get made or if the set would burn down halfway during filming because they're screwing around so bad. But yeah, a lot of people discredit Harris, but he, as they think of O'Toole and Burton as the big, party guys, but he was out there.
Yeah.
He was out there. There's a story about how the director or the producer, and again, this film took a while to get made because of the problems that they had, went out to his house one day because Richard Harris would usually be there, but sometimes not. And he goes to Harris's house, and Harris is like standing at the edge of his pool.
Okay.
In his backyard, and it's no water. It's winter or whatever, so it's drained. And he's like, I'm gonna jump in. I want to kill myself. And he's like, oh, you don't want to do that. He's like, no, goodness. I do. He's like, no, there's no water in there. Don't jump in there. Okay, I'm not gonna jump in there. Let's go out. Let's go get a drink.
Oh my goodness.
It's like it reminds me of the don't try to stop me. Don't try to stop me, Smee. Don't try to stop me, Smee. You better stop me. Get off your ass and get over here and stop me, Smee. Yeah, so it's rough, man.
It is rough.
Although you can wear a cool Ringo outfit to your premiere, and
yeah.
Who's gonna tell you, boo? You're Richard Harris,
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's
There's-
like he was trying to invoke like the costumes and stuff like that.
I guess.
It's like he's going with a theme here.
Yeah. We're talking about if you get the Blu-ray, there's a special feature that has like a okay, you sit and think about what the lingerie company's name was while I tell the story. It's a TV special that's it's like sponsored by Starkers. That's probably a bad lingerie company name. Anyway, it's sponsored.
Starlight, let's say.
Yeah, right. And it's like, all the stars, the glittering stars are here for the premiere of Camelot. In this day and age, it would just be coverage on, E! News or whatever. But
Right.
so people are coming in, and then they're interviewing everybody, and Richard Harris is there, and he's in like a green, like velvet sort of,
Yes.
like halfway to Sergeant Pepper's, like with white ruffles kind of thing.
This
And-
tunic thing.
Yeah, it's a tunic. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's of the time. Everybody else is in a tux.
Yep.
Richard,
Yep.
Richard, let me smell your breath. Oh boy. Would you recommend this film?
I would absolutely 100% recommend this film. I think it's very entertaining, and I think it's a good musical, and I think there's great performances in it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to. One more story about Richard Harris, which
Sure.
nobody's ever made that mistake ever in the world before. He kept wanting. So he was really not known for singing, but he wanted to prove to everybody that he could sing.
Okay.
And he does. He sings all the parts in the film, does a good job. But it was really annoying to the director on set because he insisted on singing for the scenes.
Okay.
For the actual scenes, when normally you just lip sync to a playback. Like that's what everybody does.
Sure.
Mary Poppins does that.
Right.
So just do it, man. And he refused, and so he is. We don't hear it, but he is singing in those scenes, and then they just dub his singing over his singing.
Oh my goodness.
But he wanted to it was a really big thing for him. You got the role. Calm
Yeah.
down. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'd have to recommend it as well. I don't know how you couldn't.
I agree.
It's just too fun.
It is very fun.
And we didn't even talk about politics. If it's good enough for Jack Kennedy, it's good enough for me. That actually all happened afterwards. You know that?
Really?
Yeah, because it was after Jack died, and then I think even after maybe the film came out, and somebody was talking to Jackie, and she was saying that, as she must, I'm assuming, just knowing our celebrity culture and our media,
Right.
she's probably interviewed a million times, like after Jack died.
Probably.
And one of the times, she's like, they asked him like if he had any favorite music or anything like that. She's like, he really liked that Camelot, which everybody did. And she quoted specifically that line that I said before about, let everybody know that there's a spot where good was something. I'm a big fan. Can't remember the part. And people just ran with that. And they're like, oh, that's that Jackie and Jack. That was like our Camelot. And yeah, which means LBJ is Mordred. And Marilyn is Jack Guinevere. And Jackie is Arthur. And Marilyn Monroe is Lancelot.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Who's King Pellinor?
I don't know.
Well, we need to figure this out. And who's Tom of Warwick?
Who's a bright, young, fresh-eyed person?
And wait, and does that mean that Mordred is Nixon then?
Oh boy!
Right?
Oh my goodness!
And of course, I think Tom of Warwick is Alderman.
Okay.
Because the mailbox, of course.
Of course.
That's an Alderman reference. I invite the comparison. So yeah, that is a definite must-watch from both of us because why not?
Exactly.
Feel good. The performances in this are great. I'm always moved by that scene, which is really stupid and weird when you think about it. But like after he kills Sir Ding Dong, at the thing, and the whole play takes, a 180 turn at that point, because it's
Right.
all sort of downhill after that, in a emotional way, not in a performance way. Although, yeah, the second half of this thing is kind of slow. But he kills the guy, and then he's like, he feels the worst of them all, and he's like, live, and he gives him like this is CPR in the Middle Ages. You guys gotta live.
Right.
Please come back to life.
Please live.
And he comes back to life, and everybody's like, whoa. And Guinevere's like, boing. She's
Yeah.
like, ooh. He's cute, and he can bring people back to life. Ooh. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, definitely check it out for sure. Okay, well, that's pretty much it, at least for now. We're going to put it down. This is pretty much the end of Craft Disservices.
Which
so,
is kind of sad.
yeah.
But
What'd you learn?
that I learned that there are a lot of good movies out there that are.
I won't accept that. You have to have learned more than that.
The critics aren't always right.
Well,
and sometimes they get it wrong, and they condemn movies that shouldn't be condemned, and that should be lifted up and remembered.
I learned that there's a lot of factors in place.
There are.
And that you can't, and I'm not comparing this has no parallel to real life, but you can't just listen to one person or even one class of people when it comes to looking for something that you're going to enjoy.
Right.
Many of our listeners are sci-fi fans, probably all of them are, and you all must have a book or a comic book or a video game or a film series that you just love, and it's probably poorly rated, or maybe even your friends don't like it, and you just can't explain why you like it, and you don't have to.
Right.
Because there is no absolute measuring stick for what makes something good.
That's true.
So if anything, I hope that we've shown that it can be a guide, or it can be an indicator of overall quality.
Right.
But nobody can put a rating on your enjoyment.
That's right. Sniff.
Feels good. Yeah. Well, the fun isn't necessarily over. As I've mentioned before, and I'm going to plug now, we do have a new show on the network, on the Just Enough Trope Network, called, fittingly, Craft Disservices.
Yes.
Where this segment lives on in a full-size show where I and a rotating panel of movie experts, that is, movie reviewers, movie writers, and also movie stars, all join me to talk about some of the best, worst films in cinematic history, and do the same deal that we do here. We pick a film that's under 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, but something that you would remember, something that people love, and talk about why, what happened. This is bad? I don't think so.
Right.
Maybe it's not so bad.
Right.
Sometimes it is. I think on our upcoming show this week, we're talking about X versus Sever.
Okay.
0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's pretty bad.
Deserves every point it didn't get.
Wow.
Well, I guess that means it deserves more. Does not deserve any of the points that it didn't get.
Okay.
So, so sometimes there's some tomato cans, and we give them the appropriate kicking. But yeah, check it out. It is on this network, like I said. If you go to craftdisservices.com, you could find it also on iTunes by searching for Craft Disservices. Check it out. Our first show was about Punisher Warzone.
Which is awesome.
It's a pretty good film.
Yeah.
That got a pretty bad rating.
Yeah.
It's got a guy where it gets his head blown off by the Punisher.
Yes.
Well, another guy is not mad, just disappointed. Well, we're going to arrest this guy. Blam. God damn it, Castle. Well, Minnesota Fan Fest has come and gone. We've been through 2 days of it, and here are our impressions of the second day.
Well,
I thought you were going to do your Gordon Purcell impression. That's what I was asking for.
Oh.
When I said impression.
if I could do an impression of his hair, I would.
Whoa!
But
would it be a real or fake impression?
I don't know.
Let's not get too far into this. But the question is open. Yeah, so I think the second day was a lot like the first for us. The difference was in some of the programming that we were involved in. But otherwise, I guess maybe this is just a recap of the show. Like, what'd you think?
I thought they had a decent showing, but I felt like they didn't have as many people as they wanted there.
Yeah.
So maybe they didn't do as much advertising as they could have.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a promoter. I
Right.
don't do this, so I'm not sure where things fell short. And you can do everything right and still not have a lot of people.
Right.
And I'm positive for any kind of promotion or production. Not doing as well as you'd like to the first couple of years is probably de rigueur.
Probably.
So yeah, I mean, from that end, it's understandable. That being said, yeah, it was, it was pretty lightly attended. I definitely expected more people. The people that were there were totally enthusiastic.
Yeah.
There were just a lot of vendors, some that we've seen before at other shows, but a couple new ones. And there was a great representation, I think, from local shops, and they were all friendly and, selling things.
Yes.
When I saw them, when I was there, the sort of four core guests that we had were all great.
Yeah.
And people I was seeing on social media, a lot of people interacting with them and just having fun meeting them. And so, mini donut guy out after day one.
Yeah.
Are they like the rats on the carnival ship, the carny ship?
They might be.
It's like, oh no, the mini donut. It's like the ravens in the Tower of London. Like when
I know.
when the mini donut guy's gone, we got problems.
It's bad news.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Movie guru Tara and I got accosted by a couple of the vendors.
Why is she movie guru now?
I
She could
suppose
be-
she's music guru.
She could be movie guru when she comes on the Craft Disservices show.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I meant music guru. I just said movie instead of music.
Got it.
Like these one guys were like, "Hey, ladies, do you like to read? Because we're authors and we like to write books."
What a
And it's
trap.
like-
There's no good answer to that question.
I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I burn paper when I see it. I foam at the mouth when confronted with the written word. Like, what do you say? Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, here you go. Yeah, I only read women authors. Right? You said it was guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's true.
Shut down.
There you go.
Okay, you pocket that one for next time.
Okay.
That was good. The programming went great as well. I'm trying to think of some of the panels that I was on. It was part of a Mythology 101 panel.
Yes.
Which I was happy to be a part of. I mean, I love mythology. I like to think that I know a few things about it, but I was thinking, who's going to come to this? And how does it relate to nerd pursuits?
Sure.
And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm like moderating the panel, so I better know how it relates to nerd pursuits. And it was great. We actually ended up having a really great talk, and one of the people on the panel who was vital to being there was, to being a success was Matthew Kesson, who is a local, I don't know what he calls himself, but I know that he does, he's an expert. He's an expert on mythological monsters and cryptozoology and that sorts of thing. And he does all kinds of presentations like around town about it. And so he's my ringer. We're just going to turn it over to him. And he had a lot of great input and a lot of great things to share about mythological monsters and things like that.
Yeah.
He talked about the Tsitsi, what were they? They're like Mayan
I don't know.
witches who devour the sun, or like during eclipses they eat people or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was that was interesting. That was fun. Then we had the game show that I've spent 2 weeks preparing for, called Actually, which went off great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it did win really well.
You know, if you were going to be if you were like like scouts go to baseball games, and they're like, that kid, we got to get that kid.
Yeah.
If you were a scout for a talent, or not talent, definitely talent, but a trivia game show or something, and you're sitting in the audience, here's the girl that you would have picked to win, who did end up winning, by the way. When I was giving an example question about this is how the game works, in that I'm going to give you a fact that relates to nerd stuff. Something in the fact is wrong. You have to fix it. That's how the game works.
Right.
So if I say the TARDIS is a time machine that Dr. What uses to travel the cosmos, right, you would say, actually, it's Doctor Who.
Right.
Fine, right? And this girl in the audience is like, actually, he's the Doctor, and the show's Doctor Who. And I'm like, shut up. But then we had a couple different rounds, and then everybody in the winners of the rounds faced off in the final round to see who the champion was, and it was her.
Yeah.
It was her. She
Yeah,
won.
She won.
And she got a Junior Avenger badge for her efforts.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And in writing those questions, I found myself not trying to dumb them down, but trying to like make sure that I was covering. I learned a lot about things, nerd stuff myself.
Sure.
Because everybody's got their fandoms, their circles, and I had to get outside of them because I didn't want every question to be about Star Trek.
Right.
It wouldn't have worked. So yeah, I actually ended up having Pokemon. There's Pokemon questions in there, and there was Naruto questions in there.
Oh my goodness.
And I put some Harry Potter questions in there, even though
Yep.
I'm not very familiar. And then they proceeded to like not get a lot of them. But it was exciting because the final round came down to it was like 4-4 between the two previous semi-final champions, and then we got to like a string of 5 or 6 questions where they were either too tough or just not their fandoms because they were just going by. Nobody was getting them, and it was a sudden death situation. And then the winner won on a Transformers question.
Yeah.
So put that in there. That was fine. Megatron. That's correct. But yeah, that was fun. And then after that, we did a panel that was Marvel versus DC movies.
Yes.
And I tried to take the verses out and just go like Marvel and DC movies.
Right.
What's up with that?
Right.
And we were lucky to have special guest star Gordon Purcell join us.
Yes.
Gordon is a artist who has worked for Marvel and DC and other books.
IDW.
IDW, yeah. And he's sort of a mainstay in the industry. He famously worked on the Silver Sable comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of got him to sort of speak a little bit about the announced Silver Sable movie. And it seems like he's silver positive about that.
Yes.
So that's cool. I had fun. And you said you had fun?
I had fun.
Do it again? Would you go again?
I would go again.
Get some shoes?
Yeah, there we go. Get some shoes.
From the shoe convention upstairs?
I wonder if they were selling them there.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Maybe not. If you were a buyer to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree too. And if you are in the Twin Cities and you're around, I guess in mid-August of next year, I say definitely look up Minnesota Fan Fest and check them out. Also, if you're in the Phoenix area or will be in late spring, early
April,
summer.
May.
Yeah.
Like
That's
that.
when Phoenix Comic-Con is. So check that out as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. It's we skip the news. It's fine. Even though it's on our masthead, all the news that's fit to cast. But this was local news.
That's right.
And in local news, FanFest rocks your face. Yeah. So we covered that, but we'll be back with more news and Comic Book Club next time when we talk about Astro City. Kurt Busiek, who, all apologies to the Busiek, forgot his name. I was having a conversation with somebody, and I completely blanked on the man's name because he was talking about the guy who got like $200 for essentially coming up with Black Suit Spider-Man.
Okay.
Which has gone on to make billions.
Right.
Literally billions of dollars. And he got like $200 for it.
Wow.
Which, he got more than Siegel and Schuster did for creating Superman. They got $125 or maybe $135, which they had to split. Yeah. So anyway, so we are talking about sort of fans or sort of ancillary people contributing major things to comics. And I was saying like, well, the guy that came up with the resurrection of Jean Grey, more or less. And he's like, Chris Claremont? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I mean the guy who sort of had the idea and like gave it to Shooter or whoever the editor was at the time. And he got compensated for it. And it was I couldn't remember Kurt Busiek's name. I'm like, Avengers Forever, Astro City. So we're going to make it up to him by giving him a glowing review. Probably. We're impartial for Astro City, which we're covering next week on Comic Book Club. It is the first trade paperback. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to say it's, the first 5-6 issues
Something like
of
that.
the very original run of the book. Life in the Big City, it's probably called.
Okay.
That seems. If you're an editor, you have a book called Astro City. What is it? Well, it's kind of like a meta narrative deconstruction of like superhero tropes. Yeah, okay, we'll call it Life in the Big City. That's an editor's choice. So yeah, that's what it is. You can check that out. It's available digitally, or if you've got a copy, which you may, because it's very famous and popular, read it for next time. Before next time, if you want to read up more on us, you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. We are at Just Enough Trope. Also, go to iTunes and find our show page, search for Just Enough Trope, and subscribe to the show. It is the best way to get the show. It comes to you unbidden, immediately, as soon as it is ready, hot and fresh, out of the oven. We need a better metaphor than this food metaphor all the time, because I want to run off and have a pot pie when we're done. But yeah, get into that show. Also, while you're there, leave us a review, because we really appreciate hearing what you think about how we're doing, and also what you want to see on the show coming up. And give us a rating, really the most important part, because that's how this algorithm thing works on iTunes. When you give us a high rating, that is a 5-star rating, we move up in the ranks. And then we get to reach more people like you, to make more people happy. Everybody gets what they want. So to that end, give us 5 Hellraisers. I'd like to add myself. I'll be the 5th Hellraiser.
Okay.
Kind of like how Billy Martin is the 5th Beatle, or actually a lot of people claim to be the 5th Beatle. I'll be the 5th Hellraiser.
All right.
But I'll be the DD. So it's like, Oliver, come on, Richard, Peter. They don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Everybody, I get him in that big white van. I drive everybody home. Everybody's alive. Everybody's fine.
There you go.
But that's no fun for me, being the designated driver all the time. So give us 5 stars instead. And that's it. We're going to sign off for now. We want to say thanks to Minnesota Fan Fest for a great time, and thanks for all the people who came to the panels, and I hope you really enjoyed them. And we're signing off. I'm your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
Keep the geek fires burning.